I'm Jim O'Neill. I'm the Director of Purchasing and Risk Management for the City of Fort Collins, and there's my contact information up there. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of how to get started on green purchasing, sustainable purchasing, environmentally preferable purchasing, however you'd like to call it. People call it by a lot of different things. I'm going to talk about watching out for greenwashing, which is, I'll talk about the 7 sins of greenwashing, and then I'll talk about agencies that are out there and some of the resources that you got. That's what's in that handout. The city's got a sustainable purchasing policy, and basically what we're trying to do is to make sure that we protect the environment as much as we can, and also to look out for the triple bottom line. You've got the environment, but you've got social issues, and you've also got the economy. You've got to balance all those out, or it just won't work out for you. So some of the things that we've done is we're buying 30% recycled copier paper, post-consumer waste. So a lot of you are probably doing that, and we've kind of piloted a little bit on some 100%. So you might try 100%, or I guess I'll talk a little bit more about it later. But what's even better than using recycled paper? Not using any paper at all. So vegetable-based inks when we're doing printing. And I just saw something the other day, and I haven't tried these out yet, but there's a soy ink toner cartridges. It's from soyprint.net. We're trying to get away from things that have chlorinated solvents in them. All of our cleaning contracts have certified chemicals being used, low pH chemicals. And we're trying to use products that are certified by either Green Seal or some kind of environmental choice. We're trying to look at products that are good for the environment, that are actually, there's a certification agency that stands behind them, and I handed that list of certification folks to you. Some of the other things we're doing is, in resource conservation again, is duplex copying, trying to encourage people to duplex copy. Or in my office, it always seems like we got a bunch of copies that we really need to make, but they're only printed on one side. We flip those over and print them back through. Again, trying to minimize the paper that we are using. We've done recycling in all of our demolition, a lot of our demolition contracts. You probably saw the thing in the paper about the creamery that was deconstructed, and I think our goal was 75 or 80%. I haven't seen the final report on that, but we did get a lot of that stuff that didn't go into the landfill. Plus we saved a bunch of those bricks that will be showing up in some other projects at some time. Energy efficiency, we're trying to use high efficient motors on our buildings. Our goal is to have LEED Gold buildings, and the police building and the Northside Otzlon Center were both LEED Gold. The Museum Discovery Center is being completed now, and we're kind of thinking that might even hit platinum. We don't know, but we just put some solar on the roof, and it's built on a landfill too, so we think that might get LEED Platinum. We're trying to do the latest technology on heating and cooling. We just replaced a couple of boilers at the old museum and in some of our city buildings. And we're looking at, you had to train people, and there's a lot of other folks that are trying to help you make sure that you're doing the most efficient way that you can. In one of our city buildings, we put in, instead of one big boiler, we put in 2 boilers so that we can bring them both on when we need it, but when we don't need them, we're only running one. So that reduces a lot of our energy. And we're doing a lot with vehicles. Biodiesel we're buying. We have a hybrid truck now for our utilities, where when they're up on that lift truck, they don't have to run the engine. We've got some of these aero boards on our trucks that are solar powered, where when they're parked on a street and they're directing traffic, they don't have to keep running the engine. And some of this too we've done, this is talking about purchasing stuff, but we've got a lot of policies as far as asking people not to idle their trucks when they're sitting there. So how do you kind of get started? Well, one thing is you've got to have support from the top. It can't be just driven top down, but you do need support from the top. You need to come up with your policy or your guideline, and some of the resources that I handed you, there's going to be a lot of policies that you can borrow from somebody else. You don't just have to reinvent the wheel. You're going to assess and manage your internal resources, get a green purchasing team, and in your own organization, you know the people that are already leaning more towards trying to do things the right way, trying to recycle. Those would be somebody to tap, put on that team, those that really have an interest in that. And create a process to work together and establish communication and outreach strategies. The Aberdeen Group said that they did a study back in 2009 on the return on investment of sustainability, and basically they said that 52% of the corporations were more likely to have, the successful ones were more likely to have sustainable metrics into the value of change performance management, and 74% were likely to have an organization-wide sustainability policy. So that's your best in class. Those are the people that are really buying into this, and it's not just a lip service. They know that it works. So some of the myths that about green purchasing is it's too hard. It's too hard to do. Well, that's really, green purchasing isn't any harder to do than anything else. It might be, if you've already got a specification, things written, and you're already buying a product, yeah, it's going to take a little bit to go back through and look at that specification and try to take it apart and figure out if there's better ways to do it. But it's really not that hard. Green products don't work. It's been proven that green products do work, and I've got another slide that I want to tell you that when you pilot a green product, if it doesn't work like the other product worked, well then you've got to look for a different product because it's not the one that you're looking for. They aren't available. Well, there's a lot of people producing those products, and our luncheon speaker talked about, how do you get some of this stuff to happen? Well, part of it is not by legislation. Part of it is by consumers, businesses, governments wanting to buy these particular things, and then the products are there. Vendors can't or won't do it. Well, there are a lot of vendors that are doing this stuff for us today. And one that I forgot to put up here is that it costs more. Has everybody heard that? Green products cost more? Yeah. Well, green products don't necessarily have to cost more. You might have a little bit higher upfront cost. In some cases, not in all cases, but in some cases there might be a little higher upfront cost. But a lot of times over the life cycle, you're going to recoup that many times over. So you want to identify, so what are you going to go after to buy green or to get an environmentally preferable product? Are you going to do goods, or are you going to do services? Are you going to try to convert your janitorial services to green products? And the big thing with any of this is to pilot it. Start out slow. Make sure something works, and if it works, then progress with it. Here's some of the best practices on trying to figure out what kind of product you're going to go after. Well, look at one that will lower your upfront cost, conserve energy or water. If you can conserve energy or water, you can pay a little bit more for a product on the front end because you're going to recoup that over the life of the product. One of the big ones is reducing paper or fuel use, because you know that you're going to save dollars if you're getting rid of paper or if you're using something that's more fuel efficient. Look for things that maybe you're going to have a lower maintenance cost on, then that you can reduce replacement costs. A big one is avoiding disposal costs. So once you've got a product in the beginning, how are you going to get rid of that product? You don't want to get a product that's very toxic to begin with. If you can prevent buying that, then you don't have to worry about getting rid of it, getting rid of that half barrel of chemicals. The city went through and cleaned up all of our areas here a few years ago, and it was amazing what we found in some of the closets and the sheds, so it's we all, even in our own homes, we go in there and we got some hazardous materials, and the city's got good programs to pick up those hazardous materials for you too. You want to support the local and regional economy. You want to try to support your local businesses. You want to get products that will offset environmental or health problems. So if you're doing if you have your own cleaning crew and they're using products that aren't going to contribute more to asthma problems, well then you're going to save on your workers' comp issues, or if you're not using a real caustic chemical, you're not going to have that problem with somebody getting burned. So I want to talk about the 7 sins of greenwashing. So if this would be something I think that hopefully will make a little sense to take home with you. One of the big sins is fibbing. There are products that people will just tell you, manufacturers will tell you that this is green, and it isn't green. They'll say it's non-toxic, and it's not. One of the biggest fibs that I just heard the other day was one of my departments called me, and I hadn't heard this in years. I thought it was gone, but they said this 30% recycled copier paper, their copier repairman said that's why their machine wasn't running. Well, that's baloney. They can set those machines, and that used to be, way back in the olden days when recycled paper, had big chunks in it and stuff. It doesn't have that anymore. It's good. It's really good stuff. But so people will fib to you. No proof, just trust us. You want to make sure that they have a third-party certification. Irrelevant. So you've probably seen this in the stores even. It says no CFCs. Well, CFCs have been banned in products for years. So, the other thing was that I saw the other day. I was going around the city and looking at our copy machines, and I didn't bring that box because we're no longer buying it. But one of the people, they weren't buying this 30%, and I asked them. I said, the person that was buying the copier paper said, well, why aren't you buying this 30% recycled copier paper? And they said, well, this, it's in a green box, and it says 100% recyclable. And I said, yeah, but it's 100% virgin paper too. So so it's just, you just kind of got to watch what you're buying. Hidden trade-offs. The example there was you got a biodegradable paper, but it's got a Teflon coating on it, which you're not going to be able to compost or anything. You want to buy products that are from sustainable forests, but on the other hand, even products made by a sustainable forest, could take a lot of water to make that paper. So again, going back to that, well, let's just get rid of the paper to begin with. Sin of vagueness, 100% natural. Is uranium 100% natural? Yeah, so there's a lot of things that are 100% natural. Arsenic is 100%, it occurs in the environment, but that's not necessarily something that you want to have around. Lesser of two evils, we're going to have organic cigarettes, or how about Arnold when he converted his Hummer to a hybrid. And worshiping false labels. Some people create their own labels. There's no certification agency standing behind that, so just want to watch out. And these are some claims that are, the FTC has said that those are false claims. And here's some EnviroLube, organic penetrating oil. Here's some Betty's Green Seal. So these are some of these just kind of made up labels that some of your organizations might have. Green Seal's a good one. They do janitorial products. Eco logo, if you see a product with the eco logo in this country, it's a certification agency from Canada, but you may see some of those products here. The Forest Sustainable Fair Trade. I don't know if you've seen the Fair Trade sweatshop. Some of the rating agencies, Energy Star, you probably heard about Energy Star. But there's various levels of Energy Star, so there are some companies that are starting to look at products and trying to buy the top 10% of the energy efficiency. EPEAT, don't know if anybody heard of EPEAT. It's for computers and how the power that computers use. And the US EPA, you've got a lot of their products that they look at. So what you want to do, I think, is to leverage your spending. Choose products that reduce the impact on the environment. Look at what's the product made from to begin with. So what's it composed? What are you buying? What's it going to be composed of? We had a product, we were buying photovoltaic controls, and it came in a blue plastic case. And in working with the supplier, we found out that the blue dye to make the plastic blue was pretty bad for the environment. So they switched to black, and which was better for the environment. So just little things that you can do. It didn't cost any more money, but that helped that product out. Where did it come from? Again, where are you going to buy that particular product from? A big thing, as I mentioned before, is how are you going to dispose of it? So if you don't buy it to begin with, you don't want to buy something bad to begin with and then have to get rid of it. And where will you buy it from? If you can buy it from a local business, a small business, from a fair trade business, those are probably that's a more sustainable way to do things. And that's also basically on the social side of that triple bottom line. So this is, if you're going to pilot a product, you've got a product, you want to try it. So you're going to try to pilot it. You want to engage your users. You want to set performance criteria. And I've said before, there shouldn't be any trade-offs. It shouldn't be that if you're using a cleaner, it shouldn't be that, this cleaner is not going to clean as well as the other one did. Well, there are, it should be something that's going to work just as well as the or the less environmental product. Request product samples. Again, do that pilot test. Try something different on a small scale, and only work with what works. Folks in your business are not going to want to use something that doesn't work as well. A big one on the stuff you're buying, or if you're shipping stuff out, try to reduce the packaging. Not pushing Office Depot stuff, but the other day this showed up in my office, and what it was is Office Depot, when they didn't have enough to fill up a big box or something, they're trying this out, a little shopping bag that's sealable and that they can put in the send it by a courier. So it's cutting down on some of the paper. Now, or some of the shipping costs, I'm sorry. But part of the problem with this, though, is they still, office supply companies and probably a lot of companies, if you order 100 different items, and if they back order 2, the minute the warehouse gets that one in, they're going to ship it to you, and it might come in this little bag. So it's kind of one of those, it's going to have to be kind of part of a paradigm shift. We all want our products, but could we wait a few days? And those warehouses, they're basically are judged on, well, how quickly, what's their fulfillment rate? They want to be 99% fulfilled on their orders to you. So they don't like to keep things sitting around, but maybe we need to change our method of telling them, what's important to us. But that's one thing, that's a little thing. So reusable, recyclable, or if you're shipping something out, have you got something that you can take back and reuse? Purchase concentrated products. I used to work for a division of Johnson & Johnson, and we sold this real expensive gallon of, it was a hospital sanitizing agent, and big gallon jug, and in the neck of that jug was a little bitty vial, and that was the active ingredients. So I don't know if they're still selling those big jugs and shipping those, but I'm sure, but the stuff was really expensive, so I'm sure if they'd have sent us these little bitty jugs and said, just put that in a gallon of water, we'd have kind of gone, well, what are we getting for our money? So there's probably some of that there, but basically, if they could just ship that concentrated product out, and then of course you've got a little bit of a training issue just to make sure people aren't overusing products when they're diluting them. So I was talking to my grandson last night. He's working for McDonald's. I said, so how do they make those fries, and how do you make sure you get the right amount of salt on them? He said, well, the salt shaker, when you dump the salt shaker over, it only, whenever they put it, when they turn it up, it only puts out so much for that. So they got that figured out pretty well. Transportation, again, that's a big cost. When the city does its greenhouse gas studies, we looked at from just people taking trips to different meetings, or that air travel really, that's really a big greenhouse gas contributor. So avoid overnight shipping if you can. Reduce the frequency of deliveries. I kind of talked a little bit about that. And if you can support your local businesses, if you're buying organic groceries or whatever from a local grower or just a local business. So one of the things that we've started trying to do, and just in my purchasing operation, is we bring people in for interviews on proposal processes, and we haven't figured out a total way to get around that yet, but we're doing more and more pre-proposal meetings where we just need to talk to people. We're having them call in, and we're also starting to think about, well, maybe we could do a WebEx interview so people don't have to come in to see us. Although there is value in doing that face-to-face, but we're starting to at least think about some of those things. And then when we have people submit proposals to us, we're having them do, where possible, if it's not going to be 2 volumes of information, having them submit that to us electronically. And then our raters may want to print that out, but at least we didn't have to have it shipped in, because all of those proposals come in the last minute. They're all coming by FedEx. Or just some support your green certified businesses. So if you can get your business certified as green, as the Aberdeen Group says, I think you're going to be better for your organization. Plus, hopefully people are going to support you, because that's what we're all trying to do these days. Require the vendors to recycle, shift the responsibility to them. If you're buying some kind of material, or if it's coming in a big tub, maybe you make them take that tub back. It'll help stimulate the infrastructure for recycling and encourage manufacturers to realign their products so that they're not creating so much waste. We're using remanufactured toner cartridge from Green Cartridge, which was making them here in town. I'm not sure if they still are, but they were making them here in town. You want to be careful. This is how you're going to get rid of that stuff. This is where a lot of our computers used to go over to China, and they were just beating them, burning a lot of that stuff, making a lot of waste. The city, what we've started doing on our computers is making sure that they go to somebody that we know is going to actually take them apart and recycle them in a proper way. We're trying not to, we used to sell our computers at auction, and we got a call here about a year ago from somebody from Albertsons that said, hey, I got a dumpster full of your computers, and dumped in my dumpster. And so we went out there and picked them up. Well, it had the old inventory tags. We tracked them back, and that was some that had been sold, before that to somebody. So we're trying to make sure that we keep that stuff out of the waste stream now. If you're a supplier, or if you're buying from a supplier, try to get them to label their products as environmentally preferable, require the greenest products to come on top. We buy online from Office Depot, and something I haven't started with them yet, but I need to as a best practice is to tell them to put the greenest product on top. If somebody's going to buy paper, then I want to make sure that either 100% or this 30% comes up on top, or I might even want to go in and say that's the only thing we can buy. Don't know that I want to do that, but because there are times you need some other things. But have them suggest substitutes, and periodically report the dollars that you spend. So it's good to know how you're doing, how you're tracking, how you're measuring what you're doing. Collaborate. Don't try it on your own. I mean, there's a lot of people. This whole Climate-Wise group is great for sharing ideas, I think, and resources. The Responsible Purchasing Network is, and there are 200 members and a lot of businesses in there besides just governments, trying to make sure that people are aware of products and trying to make sure that manufacturers are making products. So there's a lot of information out there. So some other resources, Portland, Oregon. A lot of the folks on the Oregon and Washington are really good kind of leaders in this. You can look at their websites, King County. And again, I borrowed a lot of stuff from these people, so that's what we're all trying to do, is make sure that we all look at what we're doing and how to do it better and try not to reinvent the wheel.